When I look back, I can still smell the candle wax. Brandon's girlfriend, Kate, had this habit of lighting 5 different scents at once, like the mix of vanilla, pine, and burnt sugar could disguise the fact that her apartment always felt too still. My girlfriend, Lila, teased her for it, while the 4 of us sat around the coffee table eating takeout noodles and half watching a movie while playing Uno. It was supposed to be a normal night. I remember thinking how quiet the neighborhood was, the kind of quiet that makes you hear the hum of the refrigerator and the soft static between words. Brandon's place sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, one of those split-level rentals with a narrow porch and a single security light that never stayed on. We'd just started talking about weekend plans when the knock came. 3 sharp raps, not hurried, not tentative, confident. Brandon frowned, half rising from the couch. "Expecting anyone?" "No," I said before I could stop myself. It wasn't my house, but the sound felt directed at me. The knock came again, same rhythm, a beat of stillness between each hit. Kate looked at the door, then at Brandon. Probably a delivery mix-up. But Brandon wasn't moving. Neither was I. There was something about the cadence that made my stomach tighten. "Relax," Lila said, nudging me. "I'll check." Before I could tell her not to, she padded across the living room and flipped on the porch light. It flickered once, then steadied. I caught a glimpse through the window, a shadow on the other side of the frosted glass, same height as me. Lila opened the door halfway. Then she froze. Brandon," she said quietly, "you might want to come here." He joined her at the entryway, confusion flickering over his face. Kate leaned over the back of the couch, but I was already standing. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a prank, a neighbor? When I reached the door, the air felt thinner. The man outside looked exactly like me. Same jacket, same haircut, same tired circles under his eyes. Even the way he held his shoulders, slightly turned, like he wasn't sure whether to step forward or back. It was mine. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey," he said, voice perfectly calm. "Why'd you change the locks?" For a second, nobody said anything. My mind searched for an answer that made sense. Twin, look-alike, some kind of joke. Brandon muttered, "What the hell?" The man outside tilted his head. "You going to let me in? It's freezing." The breath left my lungs. "Who are you?" He blinked, surprised by the question. "Funny, you tell me." I slammed the door before he could take another step. The sound echoed through the living room. Kate yelped. Lila grabbed my arm. "What the hell, Matt? There's somebody out there pretending to be me." Brandon turned the deadbolt. "Okay, that's insane. Maybe he just looks like you." "No," I said. "You saw him. It's not possible." From the porch came 3 more knocks, slower this time. Lila whispered, "What if it's a prank? What's that thing called? Deep fake or something?" I shook my head. "He had my clothes. He even talked like me. I don't think my parents would be able to tell." The knocks stopped. Brandon exhaled shakily. "I'm calling the cops." He grabbed his phone and started dialing. While he talked to the dispatcher, the rest of us stood there listening. No footsteps, no voice, just that quiet house breathing around us. When he hung up, he said, "They're sending a car." We waited. 10 minutes, 15. Lila peeked through the side window once, but flinched back immediately. "He's still there." I forced myself to look. Through the glass, my own face stared back at me. He was smiling faintly, like he found something funny. Then he rested his hand and knocked again, softer, steady, patient. Brandon muttered, "Jesus Christ." When the police arrived, 2 officers, they found nothing. The porch was empty. The night air looked untouched, like it had been that way all along. One officer asked if I'd been drinking. I told him no. He said they'd patrol the area, told us to lock up, and left. We tried to laugh it off after that, but no one really could. Brandon suggested we all crash there for the night, just in case. Around midnight, Kate went to bed. Lila lay curled against me on the couch, pretending to sleep. Brandon stayed up, staring at the dark TV screen. That's when I heard it again. A single knock from the back door. Brandon looked at me like maybe I'd imagined it. Then we both heard the second one. 3 taps, the same slow rhythm. We crept into the kitchen. The small window above the sink looked out over the backyard. Porch light off. Darkness thick as velvet. I whispered, "Don't!" Brandon ignored me and flicked the light switch on. The bulb hummed to life, yellow and weak, casting a cone of light over the glass door. I was standing outside again. Same jacket, same posture, except now there was something wrong with the way he smiled. It was too wide. He lifted a hand and rested it flat against the glass. The shape of it matched mine perfectly. Brandon hissed. How was he doing that? I wanted to answer, but my mouth felt dry. The thing outside leaned closer to the glass, forehead pressing gently until condensation fogged the pane. Then he whispered something. We couldn't hear through the door, but I knew the shape of the words. He mouthed, "Let me in." Brandon yanked the blinds closed. "Nope, we're done. We're calling again." But before he could reach for his phone, the kitchen light flickered and went out. The power didn't so much go out as hesitate. The hum of the fridge died. The clock on the stove blinked off, and the air itself seemed to thicken. I could hear Brandon's breath beside me, shallow and fast. Then came the soft drag of a hand sliding down the other side of the glass door. We backed into the hallway. Lila appeared, rubbing her eyes. "What's happening?" I started to answer, but a shape moved past the curtained window. A shadow of my own brushed the fabric, the faint outline of a face pressing just close enough for the curtain to twitch. Then it was gone. "Basement," Brandon whispered. "Breaker box." He headed for the stairs. Kate called from the bedroom, voice small, asking if everything was okay. No one answered. I didn't want to go into that dark stairwell, but standing still felt worse. I followed Brandon down, the flashlight on his phone cutting narrow slices of light across the unfinished walls. The switch was already flipped to on. "See," he said, "the power's fine. Must be—" Something slammed upstairs, hard enough to shake the ceiling dust loose. We bolted up the steps 2 at a time. The kitchen door was open. Cold air poured through the room like water. The curtain flapped against the wall. Kate stood frozen in the hallway, hand over her mouth. "He's inside," she whispered. I saw the trail of wet footprints on the tile before I saw him. Me, standing in the living room doorway, head tilted slightly, eyes unfocused. He looked like he'd forgotten how to breathe. Brandon grabbed a lamp from the table and held it like a weapon. "Stay back," he said, voice cracking. The thing turned his head towards Brandon, slow as a hinge, and smiled. Not wide this time, sad. Lila said my name. I don't know which of us she meant. For a heartbeat, everyone was still. Then the thing moved, fast, impossible speed, knocking the lamp aside, sending it clattering. Brandon shouted. Kate screamed. Lila pulled my arm and we stumbled backward into the hall. I remember flashes, the sound of something heavy falling, glass breaking, Brandon's voice cutting off mid-word, his grunt as he hit the floor. When it was over, the silence was worse than the noise. The power blinked back on, the bulbs buzzed faintly overhead, the air smelled of ozone and sweat. I was standing in the middle of the living room. My hands were shaking. There was someone on the floor at my feet, lying still. He looked exactly like me. The police came after Kate called them. I barely remember the sirens, just the questions. Where did the intruder come from? Why did he look like me? What happened to Brandon? I kept saying, I don't know. One of the officers pulled me aside and asked again, slower, like maybe I'd stop lying if he softened his voice. He pointed at the sheet-covered body. You expect me to believe you don't recognize him? I looked at the hand slipping out from under the sheet. Same scar across the knuckle, same little freckle by the wrist. I recognize him, I just don't know which one of us he is. They didn't like that answer. They kept me separated from everyone else for hours. The detective who interviewed me said the neighbors only saw one person through the window, the one who broke the glass. But when they showed me a photo from the scene, something about the angle felt wrong. The face on the floor looked peaceful, almost relieved. Lila wouldn't look at me when they finally let us speak. She just said, "They found you standing over him." "Over who?" I asked. Her voice broke. "Over you." That was 2 days ago.
I'm home now, waiting to hear if they're going to charge me with anything. They said the body's fingerprints match mine. Same dental records, same blood type. I've tried to remember every second of that night, but the details keep shifting. Sometimes I remember hitting him. Sometimes he hit me. Sometimes I'm the one who ran. Sometimes I'm the one who stayed. When I look in the mirror, the reflection feels a half-second late again. Not enough for anyone else to notice, just enough for me to feel it. There's a noise I keep hearing at night, like a soft, even knocking somewhere in the walls. 3 times, pause, 3 times again. Lila hasn't answered my calls. Kate says she's not sleeping, that she's scared of me now. I don't blame her. I catch myself using words I don't remember choosing, standing in rooms without recalling why I walked in. This morning I found something in my jacket pocket that isn't mine, a house key with a blue tag, the kind Brandon uses. I don't know how it got there. The police said the man they found, the other me, had the same key in his pocket too. I keep thinking about what he said through the glass. Let me in. Maybe that's what he was doing. Maybe one of us let the other in. I don't know which side of the door I'm on anymore.